Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Omega Revolution. And tonight we are going to do something a little bit differently. And we have a special guest here, but we'll get to that in a moment. My name is Debbie, and I'm here tonight with my partner, Ray Lee. And we're here to introduce a special guest that we have. So Ray Lee, I'm going to let you take it away, and it's all yours.
Okay, so ordinarily, every other Thursday, Dr. McJordan does a presentation on our blood tests. And so as you know, the balance test comes back and we can have the opportunity to have a look at that report, and Dr. Jordan goes through that with us. Unfortunately, Dr. Jordan had an emergency come up and wasn't able to make it tonight, but we are super excited to have with us Josh Clark. And I'm going to just ask Josh a few questions. Josh has consented, correct, Josh?
Yes.
To share with us his blood panel. So this is his first blood test with the balance test. So Josh is currently taking the balance oil, and he will, of course, be retesting after 120 days. What I find really fascinating about this guest and this story, and why I'm excited to be able to share this with you all, is that sometimes we have this idea that based on someone's lifestyle or age, that they're going to be in optimum health. So Josh, I'm going to ask you just a couple of questions because I do know you personally, and I know the kind of man you are and the kind of lifestyle you lead, which is extremely active. So tell me a little bit about your background and your lifestyle.
Okay. So I played hockey my whole life. So I played till I was 20, and I played junior hockey and that kind of thing. So I've always been super active and trained hard, worked out. And then after that, I got into running and trail running. So now I have an ultra marathon coming up in August, and that will be 128 kilometers. It's a lot of elevation. So I do tons of trail runs as much as I can every morning, and I exercise a ton. And I thought my readings would be extremely healthy because I also focus on my diet a lot, of course, because nutrition is a huge part of being able to do endurance races of any capacity. So yeah, I took the test and I'm about to find my results, but I don't think they're that great.
So we're not going to give it all away. So I do know that you have been training for ultramarathons. You've got West Coast Trail coming up, which is pretty popular. And then your ultramarathon will be through the Rocky Mountains, which, like you said, is really intense. So those are for elite athletes, of course. I also happen to know that you have, I would practically say you have a personal chef.
I do basically have a personal chef.
So you have a roommate who is a chef. And so you are like extremely health conscious, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So in asking you this, have you ever taken, prior to the balance oil, and me introducing you to the balance oil, have you ever been on an omega supplement?
When I was playing hockey, when I was like 18 for I think a month, I did, but that's it. So no.
Okay, cool. And
I knew they're good for you. I remember hearing that they're good for you, and I was still taking health seriously. So I didn't like the taste of it though.
Right.
So.
Okay, cool. Okay, so Deb was going to pull up your results. We'll drum roll. And then when we look at this, Josh, after you take a breath, you can go through and Deb will kind of start explaining some things, and then you can certainly ask some questions. So what Deb is pulling up on the screen is our Zinzino balance test report. So those of you who have taken the balance test and are awaiting your results, or those of you that are following along and have your results, go ahead and pull them out in front of you, and you can kind of have an idea as to what this is looking like. So you can see that Josh is here in Canada. He is a 28-year-old male. And let's take it away, Deb.
All right. So Josh, his test results were actually tested in the lab in Norway on April 30th. So it took a few days to get there. So here is the defining factor. Josh, your test results came back at 20.7 to 1. So how we come to this balance is we take the ratio of the omega-6 to the omega-3 in your body. It's an indicator of how well you're maintaining balance. For optimal health, the recommendation from most experts suggests a recommendation of 3-to-1 or better. So as you know, if your first test is higher than that, you definitely need to be taking the balance oil. So you're actually showing up at 6.9 times inflammation in your body. That's pretty huge. So the other one here, we're showing your protection value at 0%. Your protection value here, your goal is to be at 90% or greater. Your next one here is your omega-3 index. You're showing insufficient at 2.9%. And your goal here is to be 6% or greater. The next one is this one. You've got some yellow, which isn't bad, but it isn't good because this is your arachidonic index, and it's really not an important marker, but it's a essential measure of how well your body functions. The greater the percentage, the better you perform on the important metric for health and wellness. The one here, your mental strength. So this one here is fairly important as well. And you're showing at 4.0. So your mental strength is how well your cells communicate with your brain. So it's not, on how smart you are. It's how smart your cells are in your body. So your goal here is to be 1-to-1 or better. And you're showing at 4.0 to 1. The next one beside it here is the cell membrane fluidity. So the cell membrane fluidity is measured as a ratio between the saturated fatty acids and the omega-3 essential fatty acids, the EPA and the DHA. So in other words, this rates how permeable your cells are. It rates the level of elasticity of your cells, how easy it is for your cells to take in nutrients, and how easy it is for your cells to let go of toxins. So here you're showing that your cells are quite rigid. They're hard. So we want your cells to be nice and fluffy. And so over the time of 120 days, eventually those cells will soften and you'll be able to take in the nutrients and get rid of the toxins. I went through the mental strength there. So down here is your actual numbers. So I'm going to try to, bear with me if I try to make them bigger. Here we go. So I was looking at your results here, and I showed that your omega-6s, your one here is showing at 112.4. That's actually quite high. And I might ask you a question on this. So this is obtained from vegetable oils such as evening primrose oil, blackcurrant seed oil, borage seed, hemp seed. It's found in oats, barley, and spirulina. Do you take a lot of those in supplements, Josh?
I have oatmeal every morning, which has oats in it.
Okay, so that one there is quite high.
Okay.
So that's actually fairly interesting on your omega-6. On your omega-3s, on your EPA, so we know that your EPA has the anti-inflammatory effects on your cells, and you're showing at a deviation of minus 86.7%, which is quite a lot. Ray Lee, what was your deviation? It was 93?
Yeah, you're calling me out. I was at 96.
96. Okay.
Negative?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
So
not far off from mine.
my mental strength also, and it's interesting because like I'm kind of curious about this. I'm gonna out Josh because I suspect him and I are kind of similar in the way we operate, but I know that I have ADD. And I'm curious to see like how those tendencies are going to change on my next blood test with my balance oil.
Okay. So the next marker here is your DHA, which is known for boosting your brain health. And so you're showing there at minus 51.1% deviation. So these are all markers. Like there's a larger report that that you get with this blood test as well. We don't go into a lot of it here. Like this is literally our first one that we're sharing live on Facebook, and we appreciate you taking the time to share this your personal data with us. Do you have any questions on your results here?
Well, so is the only way to get these is through diet, correct? Because I do exercise, I'd say throughout the span of a week, I exercise probably 40 miles of running per week. So I guess this is kind of just showing that health isn't necessarily how physically fit or active you think you are. It can be more things, obviously. So is this only achievable through diet? Essentially is what I'm getting at.
So your EPA and DHA are only available, the essential oils are only available through marine sources. So whether it's through the fish oil or whether it's through an algae, seaweed, that type of thing, that's where you're going to be getting those into your diet. The other one, the ALAs, they are the ones that you get from your flax seed, your chia seeds, those types of things. And you're seeing here that you're at minus 17%.
Okay. Because yeah, I definitely don't eat much fish at all. And I don't take any fish oil supplements of any sort or omega supplements. So I guess that would make sense that my results are not ideal.
Well, and one of the things that I find really interesting too, Josh, is like you're not experiencing any symptoms of any type of illness or anything like that, are you?
No, I honestly, I don't think I've been sick in 10 years. So I'm also very surprised to see these sort of results, because I consider myself fairly healthy for the most part. So yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So what we're learning is that, you know, younger people such as yourself, you know, you can have these higher numbers, and so, you know, and not have effects in your body of illness or disease or anything, because it's slowly becoming a chronic inflammation. And when you have that over an X number of years, that's when, you know, all of a sudden people in their 40s or their 50s are getting old people's diseases, because we've had that chronic inflammation for so long. And as we know, or as we're learning, chronic inflammation will show up as a disease of some type later on in our lives.
Okay. Another question. So if, say, in a couple months of the omega, of taking the oils and taking the balance oil, should I expect short-term possible improvements on things such as, should I be thinking clear possibly? And maybe I'm just not aware of it because I feel like I'm thinking clear, but will I possibly notice an improvement short-term, or is it only for long-term protection?
Excellent question. Do you want to take that one, Ray?
Yeah, I can. I really think that what we're seeing right now with our ambassadors and elite athletes that have been using the product over longer periods is that they're seeing faster recovery times with their muscles. They're seeing better oxidation and absorption of their nutrients. So when they're taking additional like supplements, collagens, etc., to help with their performance, that's absorbing better into their body. And we're also seeing, like, in terms of young people, so the studies that are coming out with young people in terms of memory retention and the ability to multitask, etc., young people that have ADD or ADHD, they're seeing like really great results there as well. So I would suspect that I'd be really curious to know, actually, Margot had asked like what your recovery time is like after you work out or after you complete a run, like what that's like now. And I'd be interested to see what it's like after month 2 and month 3 and even month 4 for you as an athlete. And I'd be curious also about like mental stamina. Like I know you had mentioned to me like that you were noticing like a little bit of a difference in your stamina when you were pushing through for your runs. I don't know. Can you share a little bit with that?
So one of the biggest things to endurance running is it's not necessarily about the physical fitness. It's about running when it's challenging. So when your muscles are drained and exhausted, sometimes even just the length of it. So if it's hour 15, even if you're not physically, your muscles aren't that sore, you're exhausted physically from just running for 15 hours. So it is a lot about the mental capacity of just being able to continue on. So yeah, it will be that's definitely a huge part of it. So if that can improve in any way, feed me the balance oil. That's great.
That's awesome. Does anybody else have any questions that's watching or live?
Yeah, I'm just going to check on Facebook and see if anybody has any questions.
So what I would like, my biggest question, Josh, is that are we able to share your 4-month results
Yeah.
when they come in? That'd be awesome.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we can't get any worse. So. That's great. Please do.
Well, honestly, I haven't seen anybody at the 120 days with their results come back as worse. I do know we did have from a story from overseas where this one gentleman got to the fourth and final month of his 120 days. And so he decided that he wanted to try to fool the test. So he literally went out every night and he was drinking beer. He was eating the greasy fast foods, and because he wanted to skew the results. And it was actually fairly funny because his results actually came back at the 3-to-1 or better. And he had originally started, I believe, at around 17-to-1. So even though he tried to skew the results, the balance oil still worked and pushed all the way through that. So that was pretty cool.
No, that's great.
Well, thanks for your time, Josh. We're hoping that you can kind of journal a little bit and kind of keep track, even like mental notes of like how you're noticing any kind of progress as you go. And yeah, keep us posted.
Yeah, I'll try and be more conscious of my recovery as well, because usually I just recover and do it the next day without thinking about how I'm feeling in the recovery. I just I have to do it tomorrow. So now I'll try and be more aware of how I feel afterwards, how I feel the next day starting the runs, and that kind of stuff. So yeah,
I think that's all part of it too, Josh, because if we're not feeling bad, where it's like, okay, well, nothing's wrong. So why am I thinking about anything? It was like me, like my leg cramps. It took me almost 2 months to realize it had been a month and a half since I had a leg cramp. Because if it's not there, I'm not thinking about it. But I can tell you if I'm waking up in the middle of the night screaming, I definitely remember.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and if I couldn't recover the next day and couldn't go on my run, then I'm sure I'd be aware, oh, something's wrong. But yeah, so it'll also be very beneficial, I'm sure, measuring these kind of things for myself. So
Cool.
no, thank you so much for reading my results and
Thank you for sharing with us.
Thank you again, Josh. And if anybody's interested or would like more information, just pop us a message on Facebook or anywhere you can find the Omega Revolution, and we'd be more than happy to talk with you or to find somebody in your area to come prick your fingers so you can get started on your 120-day challenge.
Thanks.
So thanks again, everybody, for coming. And for those that are sticking around, in approximately half an hour, 40 minutes, we're going to be having a live presentation by Dr. Mick Jordan about the balance oil. And there'll be a time there to ask questions and have them answered by Dr. Mick Jordan at that time. So thank you again, everybody, and we'll see you on the other side. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.